If you're from Conflent, you surely know it. Foreign friends, it can't escape your notice. It is, of course, the Romanesque bell tower that has been standing in the center of the town of Prades for 900 years now. Recognizable among many others, the bell tower is the identity of a village. It is part of our collective heritage. It is a landmark in space and time, a lookout, a sentinel. The one in Prades has been marking the days of the residents for over 9 centuries. It can be heard for miles around and beyond when it accompanies major liturgical events, ringing in turn or simultaneously these 4 enormous bells, one of which weighs a ton in the region. In the meantime, they rest peacefully and quietly, patiently waiting in the specially designed chamber reserved for them in a cleverly redesigned structure by the Bordeaux company during a major restoration campaign that was carried out by the town in 2018. A project made necessary by the wear of time.
We had the bells carefully serviced in 2015, and therefore we noticed that there were defects in the belfry, so we decided to conduct an audit with the elected officials. The framework for the bells is called a belfry, and it is a dynamic structure, so when the bells are ringing, the framework needs to move within the bell tower. When we arrived in 2015, the belfry's steel beams were sealed into the walls. The belfry was rotten. The joints had come apart, and so people had propped the belfry up on the masonry. It was the masonry that absorbed the dynamic forces of the bells. And so cracks appeared on the bell tower, and these cracks descended along the walls, which is when the architect decided to rebuild a belfry according to the rules of the art, completely detached from the masonry. The belfry filled the bell chamber. Bells swung parallel to the supporting beams, causing them to hit the fragile part of the bell tower. So there, the Bordeaux company had to install, at the architect's order, the bells and the access points to reach the upper level of the bell tower. So today we have created a bell system that is autonomous, completely independent from the masonry, and can move. When the bells are swinging, the framework moves, but since it is perpendicular to the supporting beams, the masonry is not subjected to any stress. So today, the bells of Prades are completely safe and can ring for years. So the ringing method chosen here is a retro ringing mode with retro metal cheeks that allow us to have less height than balanced cheeks, because we needed to fit the bells in height as they are stacked. When the bell swings, the stick strikes from weight, so there is less need for the bell to have amplitude, reducing dynamic forces. So, in addition to the well-designed framework, the ringing method chosen is one that reduces the dynamic forces on the framework. There are different ringing times: the Angelus in the morning, at noon, and in the evening, the toll for funerals, services, Sunday masses, and weddings. All the belfries have been redone on every floor of the bell tower. We installed copper mesh to prevent pigeons from getting in. All the belfries open so that we can maintain the bases of the windows. First role is to direct sound of bells to village. Second role is to protect bell tower from elements. Water can't enter bell tower.
Standing at 30 meters high, this square tower, measuring 6 meters on side, is a watchtower crenellated in the medieval period and is inspired by the bell towers of the nearby great abbeys. Our bell tower was originally at the heart of a historically sacred space, within a circular perimeter of approximately 30 paces around its church, to ensure the protection of the peasants and their cellars. Prata, meaning meadow in Latin, saw the creation of the original core of its village. La Seyère was born, encircling the primitive church, mentioned for the first time in 843, when Charles, the grandson of Charles, donated it to his loyal son Ifred, Count of Urgell and Cerdagne. He will subsequently offer the Villa Prata and all its churches to the Abbey of Sainte Marie de la Grace in Aude. Only a few remnants from the Romanesque period are still visible on the facade, at the foot of our bell tower. These various structures indeed allow us to validate the thesis that the new church encompassed the Vetera Iglesia, which was located at the southwest corner and was an integral part of the castle, such as. Later, our bell tower was embedded in a fortified enclosure of curtain walls and moats, then protected at its summit by a four-pitched roof. It was eventually topped with a pyramidal bell turret in the year 1852, due to the clock tower collapsing around that time, approximately imposing on our bell tower the task of marking the passage of time. It was therefore crowned with a campanile housing. The two bells, the largest, weighing 850 kilograms, was also to receive special attention. During the recent work, it was therefore sent off to the workshops of the Bordet Company.
It should be noted that at the time, when a bell was broken or cracked, it was either put on display or recast, but this meant losing the heritage. With the process created today by the Bordet Company, we can preserve the heritage and restore the bells and put the original bells back in place.
Here we are in the room where the mechanical clock, the old mechanical clock or monumental clock, was installed. This model is a Terralen model that allowed for telling the time and regulating the life of the village. It's a clock that was installed in the 1920s and was already electrified. In the Pyrenees Orientals, that's not common. In general, they were mechanical and needed to be wound up every week. They chimed the hours, of course, and also chimed the half hours. They also operated a dial, a clock face, which was located on the front of the bell tower. It needed to be regularly oiled, lubricating all the axes. By the way, you can see here a small hole that allowed the oil to flow and lubricate. The drum axle. This is essentially what allowed for the timing mechanism. There we have, specifically, an adjustment screw that raised or lowered the weight, precisely in order to adjust the weight accordingly. So, it modified the center of gravity and sped up, or slowed down the swinging, and, of course, had a whole chain reaction on the time base. When it was running slow, we would advance it by pushing the hand, and when it was running fast, we would stop the pendulum, wait an hour, and then set it going again. It was very basic, but that's how it was done. It was stopped for restoration work. That is to say, in 2016, it was decided, along with Mr. Terrell, and the local council decided to stop it and install a, let's say, state-of-the-art system to control the dial and the ringing of the bells. All of that has been replaced by a timer that's roughly this size, which is very meticulously controlled by the clock. The remnants of the old dial, so here is the number 9, which was originally enamel, and which we carefully used here to catch some of the grease that dripped slowly down when we did the routine maintenance. Before, the Angelus rang at 6 in the morning. Nowadays, it rings more at 7 in the morning.
clock has seen it all over the years. Its dial will be gradually moved over time along its facade, at first hiding its magnificent Lombard-influenced architecture, which can be found in many bell towers in the department and in Catalonia. The intricately and precisely studied relief creates effects of shadow and light, and texture with the use of lessenes, these vertical stone bands. These arcades, typical of Lombard bands, are separated horizontally by friezes with cog-like teeth. 16 capitals adorn the 8 openings of the bell tower. One of them, broken, had to be replaced by the Pie Company, responsible for the masonry work during the last renovation project. Now, the original is warmly preserved and displayed in the church's treasury.
Here we are at the very top of the bell tower of the church in Prades, on the terrace, where our first stones were replaced, which notably include 2 gargoyles shaped like cannons, carved from a local marble. The first time we went up, we were able to assess the condition of the bell tower, which showed some weaknesses, including crumbling stones that posed a risk to the public, especially when passing underneath. Some stones were separating. We were insecure, as the joints emptied over time, and it was necessary to remove the stones that posed a risk and to refill the joints, to secure them completely. So there was a complete stripping of the old coatings, and we applied a new base coat. There was also some metalwork, particularly lead, that was installed to preserve the building, and to prevent water from penetrating through the joints or the small microcracks that the stone might have. On the way down, we can see that we changed the alcoves, which are much brighter. On the way down, we also changed the column. Going down further, we have the replica of the capital that we made. And going down, we have all the usual cladding, particularly made of rubble. These things, with various granites. And lastly, we rebuilt the plinth, which was almost non-existent. There were a few stones on which we based our model, so particularly this one and that one. For us, it's always a challenge. It's exciting because we discover things along the way. We understand others, and then the result at the end pleases us, especially when we go to recarve a capital that was carved 700 years earlier. We are making a copy. We shape it and put it back in place while keeping everything around it. We build, integrating into masonry that we won't move. So, the challenge is even greater. It requires methodologies and insertions without moving everything around.
As you have understood, the end of the 16th century signals the end for our Romanesque church, which had become too small to accommodate the population of Prades. The different stages of construction of the new church will be forever engraved in the stones of Apera, as the work progressed in the 17th century and the enlargements of the chapels in the transept in the 18th century. But the mystery remains regarding the inscription at the base of our beautiful bell tower. Numbers or letters? Is it the imprint left by dead slaves? In Arabic numerals, which would correspond in the Roman calendar to 1144, the supposed date of its likely construction. Now freed from its corset, it invites you to discover it at nightfall, dressed in its garment of light. Lighthouse guiding our steps, surprising, almost unsettling, but always present.